Chapter 13. After Ian left this morning for work, I soaked in a warm bath because all my muscles are aching. I never knew my body could go in the positions he put me in. It's almost noon, and I decide to surprise Ian with lunch. I make a grilled chicken salad with a vinaigrette dressing recipe that my mom taught me and put it in a basket. When I go to the dock, I don't see Ian, but I see Jay, so I walk over to him. "Do you know where Ian is?" I ask him. "I saw him leave his office about 10 minutes ago," he says, looking down at the basket in my hand. "I brought him lunch," I say. He smiles and then moves his gaze to my breast. "Ian sure is a lucky man," he says, moving closer. I take a step back. "If you were mine, I would never let you out of my sight," he says, brushing his fingers down my arm. I'm getting ready to tell him to back off when Ian appears out of nowhere. "Jay, get your fucking hands off of her if you want to keep your job," he says, pushing Jay's hand away from me. Jay puts his hands up. "Sorry, man. I didn't know you were that serious." Jay walks away and Ian walks towards me. He places his hand on the same arm Jay had rubbed, and he rubs it like he is trying to rub Jay's touch off of my skin. "Are you jealous?" I ask, looking up at him with a smile, not being able to help feeling satisfaction from it somehow. He doesn't answer, and then looks down at the basket I'm holding. "I brought you lunch," I say. "Can we come eat in my office?" he says, taking the basket. He takes my hand and leads me into a small building on the dock that has a small office as you enter, and then a door to the right that leads into a larger one. There is a dark wood desk with 2 black leather chairs in front of it. There is a small table in the corner where Ian pulls a chair out for me to sit. "I wanted to surprise you with lunch to thank you for the date," I say, unpacking the salads. He leans down and gives me a quick kiss. "Thank you for the lunch. I am starved," he says, smiling. He sits down on the other side of the table and says, "Yesterday and last night was really great." As we were eating our salads, the door opens, interrupting us. Bess walks in and my stomach starts to turn. "Hi, Ian." She looks at him with a smile, showing her perfect teeth, with no acknowledgement of me sitting there. Before I can respond, I say, "Hello, Bess." Now she can pretend that I'm not there. She turns her head stiffly to look at me. "Hello, Hollyn." She turns back to Ian. Ian is looking at me, and I shoot darts at him with my eyes. "Bess, what are you doing here?" he asks her. "I was going to see if I can come over to your house later so you could look at my car. It is acting up again," she says. "If you bring it by the dock tomorrow, I would be more than happy to have Jay look at it," he says. Bess looks at him with a small frown. "I will call you later to make sure Jay is around before I bring it," she says. Then she looks at me with a grin. When she walks off, I think my salad is going to come back up. "Where is the bathroom?" I ask Ian. "Make a right and it's down the hall," he says. I walk to the bathroom, trying to pull myself together. I don't know why I let Bess get to me like that, and I've never been jealous before, so this is another new feeling for me. When I come back, Ian looks at me concerned. "Are you feeling okay?" he asks. "Yes, that just made me a little nauseous," I say. "What, the food?" he asks, looking down at my half-eaten salad. "No, her," I say, annoyed. "Oh, now who is jealous?" he says, sitting back in his chair, grinning. "She wants you, Ian," I say. He walks over to me and puts his arms around me. "Don't worry about her. You are the one I want, Hollyn." I feel myself relax from his touch. "Now let's finish our lunch," he says. I walk over to my chair, and this time when I sit down, I feel the soreness between my thighs from last night. Ian looks at me with an ear-to-ear grin. "I told you I would make you sore," he says with a smile. I feel myself blush, remembering last night. I might have to play that game more often, I say with a grin. Ian looks at me with raised eyebrows. "Hollyn, I don't want you joking about having another man in your bed," he says, with a serious face which makes me smile. "You don't have anything to worry about because I love—" I stop myself from finishing the sentence, realizing what I was about to admit to him and myself. I look down at the table and start biting my bottom lip. When I look up at him, I notice the crease has formed between his eyes. He quickly stands up. "I am pretty busy today, so I better get back to work." I stand up, and start to clear the table from lunch. "I will get that," he says, stopping me. He thanks me for lunch again and walks me out of the office. He gives me a quick peck on my forehead and then goes back into his office, closing the door. I walk back to my car, cussing myself for what I just did. I can't help but feel rejected after the way Ian reacted. I close the door to my car. I start to feel like I just pushed him away, and tears start to run down my cheeks. I pull down the sun visor and open the mirror. I take a piece of tissue out of my purse to wipe off the mascara that has strained my face. After I gather myself, I drive to my apartment and I call Austin. Austin answers, "Hollyn, what's up?" "Are you busy?" I ask. "I am just now leaving work. Can you come over?" "Sure. Are you all right?" "Yeah, I just need to talk to you." "I will be there in 15 minutes, he says. I go to the bathroom and take a makeup wipe to wipe the remaining mascara I didn't get off of my face, and then I touch my makeup up to cover up any evidence that I was crying. I go to the kitchen and pour a glass of wine. Then there is a knock at the door. I open it, and it's Austin. He looks around and then asks, "Where's Abby?" "She is at work," I respond, rolling my eyes. He walks over and sits on the couch. "What did you need to talk to me about?" He looks nervous, rubbing his palms on his jeans. "Austin, I don't care what is going on with you and Abby, but I will tell you what I told her. Don't hurt her. She is my best friend." He stops rubbing his palms on his jeans, and I can see the relief in his face, and he says, "We are just having fun." "Yeah, that is what she said too." But I see a pained expression come across his face. "I didn't ask you here to talk about Abby. I wanted a man's perspective on Ian. I don't know Ian very well," he says. "He took me on the most romantic date, and everything seemed to be going great, but today I almost told him I loved him. Then he rushed me off," I say, starting to feel the pain of rejection all over again. "It is probably just too soon, Hollyn. You probably scared him," he says. "That's what I'm afraid of," I say. "He will be fine. He would be stupid if he let you go," he says, smiling at me. Then he gives me a big hug. "Thank you for the talk," I say, starting to feel better. Austin gets a text and looks down at his phone, then says, "I have to go." He gets up off the couch and hugs me again. "Don't push him, Hollyn. You will only drive him away," he says before he opens the door. After Austin leaves, I go to my room and pick up my clothes I wore the night before. When I pick up my shirt, I get the scent of Ian's cologne, and it takes me back to our date. I inhale the shirt and throw it in my laundry basket. I pick up my phone off of my desk and decide to text him. "Thinking of you," I say in my text. I don't get a reply and just assume he is busy at work, so I decide to concentrate on my work. It's getting late, and I still haven't heard from Ian. I pick up my phone to call him when there's a knock at the door. When I open it, Ian is standing in the doorway. He walks in and rubs his hand through his hair. "I have to go back to Wisconsin to meet my grandfather regarding business," he says. I feel the relief I had just from seeing him fade away. "How long will you be gone?" "A couple of days. I will call you when I get there," he says, giving me a quick kiss. "I have to go catch my plane," he says, and leaves. When the door shuts, I already miss him. I know he needs to do what he has to for his business, and I can relate to that, but I still can't shake off the way he is acting. His goodbye was quick and cold. Chapter 14. I have my first court appearance today for Mrs. Duval's divorce hearing. Since Ian left, I have focused on working trying to keep busy. Ian has been gone for 2 days, and I haven't talked to him other than a text he arrived in Wisconsin. I never imagined it would be this hard being away from him, especially when I need to talk to him to see what is going on in his head. After our lunch at his office, my head has been like its own tilt-a-whirl ride, spinning in different directions, trying to figure out what it is that Ian wants, and if I want to continue to put myself through this roller coaster of emotions. I know it's not going to be an easy case to present against Mr. Duval in the favors of Mrs. Duval in their divorce, but I did my research, and I feel prepared for today. Mr. Duval is wealthy and deserves what is coming to him after all he has done to his wife. He would not agree on dividing their property in debt. He doesn't feel like Mrs. Duval is entitled to anything since he was the one with the large income. Mrs. Duval, on the other hand, thinks she's entitled to a substantial amount of money because he cheated on her, and she knows that is what will hurt him the most. I go to the kitchen looking for breakfast, but my nerves are unsettled, and I don't think I can handle anything heavy. I decide on coffee and toast with butter. After finishing my coffee, I decide to take a shower, thinking it would help me relax. I put my head under the water to get my hair wet, when suddenly I feel Ian standing there. He opens the shower door and I snap my eyes open. "How did you get in here and when did you get home?" He takes his clothes off and steps in with me. "Spare key, which you need to hide a little better," he says, scolding me as he grabs the shampoo, rubbing it through my hair, massaging my head. He tilts my head back into the water, gently rubbing his hands down the length of my hair to rinse it. I look at him, realizing he didn't answer the other part of my question, and ask, "Did you just get home?" "No, I got home late last night," he says, taking my body wash, squeezing it into his hands, ignoring my loofah that is hanging in the shower. I can't help but think why he didn't come over last night to see me. He bends down to my right ankle and slowly glides both hands up with ease. "I have missed the touch of your body," he says, stopping his hand when he reaches the front of my thigh, and with one hand cupping my cheek, he takes the other hand and slowly slides it over my slit, from the back to the front. I moan. "I have missed the way you smell," he says, moving his hand to the other leg. Again, he starts from my ankle and moves all the way up to my thigh. He slides his hand over the small patch of hair between my thighs, moving both hands over my stomach, to my breast, and then my neck. I'm looking into those gorgeous eyes of his, and he takes his tongue and slides it over my lips, sucking the water that is dripping down on them. His tongue slides into my mouth, and I welcome the familiar touch of his lips on mine. Then he whispers into my mouth, "I have definitely missed those lips." "You are so beautiful," he says, staring at me, holding the back of my neck with one hand while shifting me with his body so that I'm standing up against the shower wall. He moves his mouth to my breast and laps the water with his tongue that had been flowing down them. He moves down, continuing to lick the drops of water running down my body, to my stomach, continuing to move downward. He reaches my clit, massaging it with his warm tongue. He takes it in his mouth and gently sucks on it. I brace myself against the wall as my legs start to feel weak. He continues to lick and suck until I come and scream, "Holy fuck, Ian!" My muscles twitch and my body shakes, taking everything in me to not slide down the wall. Ian stands up, and I grab his hard cock, stroking it. I feel satisfaction when I see him arc his back in pleasure. I start to go to my knees when he stops me. "Today is about you," he says, lifting me up. My back is against the wall, and I wrap my legs around him, sliding down on his cock. "Damn, you feel good," he says, pushing his hips up so his cock is fully inside of me. At this moment, I am thankful for his muscular arms embracing me up because all of my strength has left my body, leaving me to surrender myself to him. He moves his hips faster, making me moan. He moves in a circular motion and takes my right nipple in his mouth. "Ian, I am close," I scream with one last hard thrust of his hips. We come together. He slides out of me, slowly lowering my legs down so I'm standing on my feet again. I regain my strength, and my head is really spinning now, but I have too much going on today to argue with Ian. After finished cleaning off, I walk to my closet to find an outfit for court. When I come out of the closet carrying a black pencil skirt and a white blouse, Ian is lying on my bed with his hands behind his wet hair. He has no shirt on and running pants that are hugging his hips, exposing his V. I snap out of my daydreaming state, and I notice his running shoes sitting on the floor. "Did you run here?" I ask, getting my lingerie out of my drawer. "Yes. Then I remember that you have court this morning," he says with a grin. He sits up in the bed and says, "Hollyn, I'm sorry if I've been distant lately. I had a lot of things to work out with my grandfather for the doc." He gets up off the bed and takes my lingerie into his hands. He bends down and slides my panties up my legs. He takes my bra and I put my arms through it. He slides it up my shoulders. He motions for me to turn around, and when my back is to him, he snaps it, sending shivers down my body from the brush of his fingers. He takes my blouse and I slide my arms in it, and he buttons it up. "I figured I would come help you relax," he says, grinning as he pulls my skirt to my hips and zips it. I feel a smile come across my face at the thought of him thinking of me and how he is being so caring right now. Would you like me to drive you today? He asks. No. I'm not getting on your motorcycle in my dress clothes and having helmet hair, I say to him. Plus, I'm trying to make a good first impression, and somehow I don't think me arriving on a motorcycle is going to do that, I say. I can drive your car, then pick you up later so we can celebrate, he says, sitting down on the edge of the bed and pulling me towards him. What if I don't win? I ask, becoming concerned, and the nerves start to come back. You have nothing to worry about. You are not only beautiful, but smart, which is sexy as hell, he says, pulling me down on the bed, and before I know it, he is on top of me. Anyways, if you don't, we will go celebrate Mr. Duval's win, he says with a laugh and a huge smile. I lift my head up and bite his lower lip. I place my hands down his running pants, grabbing his solid ass, pushing him closer to me, and I feel him starting to get hard. Miss Jacobs, if you keep this up, you might be late, and somehow, I don't think that will make a good impression either, he says, raising up off the bed, allowing me to get up. If you're going to drive my car, then you'd better put on a shirt. I don't want to be responsible for kicking some woman's ass on the front steps of the courthouse. Then I would need a lawyer, I say, handing him the car keys. I grab my black open-toed pumps. He grabs his shirt and gives me a smile that makes all my nerve endings tingle. We arrive at the courthouse, and Ian parks the car at the front entrance. The courthouse is a large building with lots of windows, and in the middle, at the top, there is a large clock. I give Ian a kiss on the cheek. I open the door to get out, but he grabs my hand. You're going to do great today. I give him a smile and watch him drive off. I turn around to where I'm standing in the front of the courthouse. I take a deep breath and look up at the clock. I watch the second hand go around the clock, thinking how each second it ticks, someone's fate is decided inside, including deciding if I win or lose today. I proceed to walk up the steps and go through the double doors. When I get inside, there is a marble hallway, and my heart is beating with every echo my heels make on the floor. Mrs. Duval is standing in the hall looking out of the window. Mrs. Duval, I say, walking up to her, interrupting her thoughts. Miss Jacobs, are you ready to make a grown man cry? She asks with a grin on her face. Hope so, I say back to her, trying to hide my nerves. I look down the hall at Mr. Duval. He is a 57-year-old white-haired, slender man who looks incredible for his age. I notice standing beside him a tall and thin man with light brown hair, his lawyer, Sean Douglas. Sean is a lawyer whose firm is Douglas & Douglas that he shares with his brother. He has made a name for himself by defending wealthy people, and he has a high success rate. I start to feel my toast, trying to come back up from this morning. Get it together, Hollyn, I say to myself walking down the hall. Miss Jacobs, how nice to see you, Sean says with a smirk, looking at my ass as I walk down the hallway. I give him a forced grin and keep walking down the hall to the courtroom, wanting nothing more than to smack the smirk right off of his face. Once we are in the courtroom, we take our seats at the plaintiff's desk on the right. I pull my notes and files from my briefcase, getting everything in order. Then the judge walks in, and we all stand. Sean starts by making his argument as to why Mr. Duval should get the house, cars, money, and the yacht. In exchange for that, he offers Mrs. Duval a settlement of $5,000 a month and will take care of all the debt they may have, which is nothing but a slap in the face considering he is worth millions. I look over at Mrs. Duval for confirmation, and she shakes her head. Sean takes his seat, looking confident, and I stand up to make a counter-offer. I tell the court that Mrs. Duval gets the house and the cars with the payment of $15,000 a month, and Mr. Duval can keep the yacht, which she has no interest in, since that is where he took all of the young women he had affairs with. I argued it was a great offering, considering we have photos from a private investigator that can prove he committed adultery at least 3 times, and the alimony alone will be triple the amount of the $15,000 she is asking for. I walk back to my seat, feeling pleased with myself. I look over to see Sean and Mr. Duval discussing the offer I proposed. Mr. Duval looks over Sean's shoulder at me, and the look on his face sends chills down my spine. I quickly look away to avoid his gaze. Mrs. Duval leans into me. He is such an asshole. I don't know what I ever saw in him. I guess sometimes it's a risk you take when you fall in love, and you just hope it works out for the best, I say, thinking about my own risk and giving my heart to someone I don't really know, but I can't imagine not taking that risk with Ian. Mr. Duval, have you come to your decision? The judge asks, looking over his glasses, sitting on the tip of his nose. Sean stands up with a disgusted look on his face. Yes, Your Honor, we have. Mr. Duval will take the offer, he says. The judge hits his gavel, and we stand as he exits the courtroom. Oh, sweetie, thank you so much, Mrs. Duval says, giving me a tight hug. Then she gives a satisfied grin to Mr. Duval as she leaves the courtroom. I begin to gather my things with a huge grin on my face, feeling victory. Well done, Miss Jacobs, Mr. Duval says, walking up to me. It looks like I chose the wrong lawyer, but I wouldn't get too comfortable with that feeling, he says, and I suddenly feel the grin wipe off my face and watch him walk away smiling. I text Ian. Court is over. Ian texts back. On my way. I walk out of the courthouse and Ian is leaning up against my car. I walk up to him and he hands me a bouquet of orange roses with fuchsia carnations. These are beautiful, I say, swiping my arms around his neck, inhaling his scent. He opens the car door and asks, Did you win? I look at him, smile, and let out a little scream. Yes, I did, and it was amazing until... Until what? He asked, looking at me concerned. Mr. Duval just gave me the creeps, I say in a low voice. Don't let the old fool get in your head, he says, caressing my knee. I smile and feel myself relax. I know Ian is right, and I deserve to celebrate tonight. Chapter 15. Later that evening, we pull up to Violet. We park, then Ian walks around the car and opens my door. When we walk through the door, I see Abby and Austin. I run over to give them both a hug. Congratulations on your win, Abby says, handing me a glass of red wine. I cheers the glass with hers and almost down it in one drink. I hear Calvin Harris's Summer start to play. Let's have some fun, I yell to Abby. I grab Ian by the arm to the dance floor with Abby and Austin following. His hips start to sway and move with the beat of the music. I can't help but stare down at the bulge in his pants. He moves his hips just as smooth as he does in the bedroom. He catches me staring at him and pulls me closer. He puts one of his legs behind mine, and I'm grinding on his leg. My clit starts to throb, and I start to get wet. He knows what he is doing to me because he looks at me with his confident smile, and I can feel his bulge start to become hard. If you don't stop grinding on my leg like that, then your celebration night is going to be short-lived, he says in my ear. Mr. Haynes, is that a promise? I say back in his ear. Miss Jacobs, are you taunting me? I don't think it will be very polite to leave when we just got here. I look up at him with a pouty lip sulking. He takes my lip between his teeth and bites it, slapping my ass. After we dance a few more songs, we go find a table, and Ian and Austin walk to the bar to get us drinks. Hollyn, I heard you had Mr. Duval shaking in his trousers today, Abby says. He definitely was feeling his pockets get lighter the whole time he sat there, I say with a chuckle. Ian and Austin walk back over to our table. Ian sits down 2 glasses of wine for me and Abby. Austin sits down beside of Abby with a rum and a Coke. Ian leans in and places his hand on my leg, sliding it slowly up my thigh under my dress. I am really proud of you today, he says in my ear. We are interrupted when Paige comes over to our table. Congratulations, Hollyn. I heard you won your first case today, she says. Wow, I forgot how news spreads fast in this town, but thanks. Would you like to join us? I ask her. She looks at me and then to Ian. No thanks, I am with someone. Call me later, I say to her before she walks away. Abby grabs Austin by the hand, pulling him back to the dance floor. I look at Ian, remembering I really haven't got to talk to him since he has been back from his trip. How did your visit to Wisconsin go? I ask him. Just business. I have to go to the restroom, he says, getting up from the table. I take a sip of my wine, watching Abby and Austin dance when someone comes up behind me. I know it isn't Ian because he smells of cigarettes and whiskey. When I go to turn around to see who it is, he places his hands on my shoulders. Just because you beat me in court today doesn't mean you are going to amount to anything in this city. This is my city, and no sweet little cunt is going to ruin it for me, he says with a threatening tone. I know I shouldn't push him because I can tell he's drunk by the way he is slurring his words, but I can feel my wine fueling my anger at him. I stand up, getting in his face. I look him in his bloodshot eyes. I don't know who the hell you think you are talking to me like that. You have a rude awakening, Mr. Douglas, because Jacobs and Keith are in town now. He grabs both of my arms with both of his hands, squeezing them, and pulls me into him closer. You are one good-looking piece of ass, he says with a grin, and I feel his grip get tighter. I bet you are a dirty little whore behind closed doors, he says, breathing the strong scent of whiskey in my face. I want to slap him, but he has my arms held so tight. Let me go, you're hurting me, I say. I'm twisting my arms to get out of his hold when suddenly he lets go, stumbling backwards, falling to the ground from Ian's punch. Ian grabs a hold of his shirt collar and punches him again and again. Ian, stop! I scream, and then Austin comes up from behind me, grabbing Ian and pulling him off of Sean. Ian is standing there, breathing hard. I'd advise you to keep your hands off of her, or you will be getting a lot more where that came from, he hisses through his teeth. You need to chill the fuck out, I say in Ian's face. Hollyn, he was hurting you, he says. I was handling it, Ian. You just beat the shit out of a lawyer. What were you thinking? I say, frustrated. Sean walks over to Ian. You're going to pay for that, fucker. You don't know who you're dealing with, he says, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. Ian pulls out of Austin's hold and goes after Sean again. I quickly step in them, halting Ian. Ian, damn it, stop, I say, then I look at Austin. Take him outside while I try to fix this mess. Come on, man, you need to cool off, Austin says to Ian, leading him to the front door. After Austin takes Ian outside and I know it is clear, I walk up to Sean. I won't file a lawsuit against you for your verbal and physical assault if you don't press charges against Ian. Do we have a deal? Sweetie, I have connections in this town, so who do you think would believe you? He says with a grin. I lean in close to his face to show him that I am not easily intimidated. Don't underestimate me, Sean. I kicked your ass today in court, and I will do it again, I say, grinning back at him. You better keep him away from me, because if he hits me again, then the deal is off, he says with a grin fading. I turn around and go outside where Ian is pacing and grabbing his hair. Ian, I had the situation handled. You didn't have to attack him like that. I spit at him. Ian stops pacing and stands in front of me. Hollyn, it didn't look like you had that fucking situation handled because he had his hands on you, he says. Look, Ian, I've been on my own for a long time, and I'm more than capable of taking care of myself, I say in a calmer voice. I am sorry, but if I see any fucking man with his hands on you, especially hurting you, then I'm going to knock that fucker out, he says, starting to pace back again. I have never seen him this angry before. I wonder where it's coming from. I walk over to him and place my hands on each side of his face. Why are you so angry? He remains silent, looking me in the eyes. I can tell he wants to tell me something. He chews the inside of his cheek and then pulls away. I watch him walk to the parking lot into the darkness. I knew he had stuff buried inside of him, but I didn't realize until now how deep that scar on his chest runs. And I can't help him because he won't tell me what has made him so twisted inside.